Circle of Five, a DPT and ketamine trip report from 1999, uploaded to Erowid on June 16, 2000. Part 1. In setting the stage for the new year, I decided to embark on a journey into the beyond, utilizing a closed-circuit group of five, the five elements of man, a sea of potential with major tributaries merging into the one. Myself contributing the cool blue, leaky water to the mix. While waiting at the baggage claim, I noticed the host entering the room, invisible hat in place, shining. There was no mistaking his green earthen presence, even though we had never met. With quick ride in the car, we arrived at his house where the wild things live, a comfortable dig for any shaman, and I immediately felt right at home. After a tour and some spoken exchange, we went back to the airport to fetch the other elements needed to complete the circle of five. Looking into the eyes of metal, I saw his focus cut through flesh. Fantastic. His scalpel even sharper than I expected. Fire was likewise consuming, his passionate flame ever so bright. Wood looked solid and supple, and very excited by the prospect of a good burn. Gathering around the table, we observed the medicine and discussed the group direction. Not wasting much time, we decided to get down and dirty with some DPT freebase. Wood and earth had no previous experience with this compound. With our glass bong appropriately loaded and ready, we began a ceremonial sharing process, discussing what is happening for each of us right now and in the coming new year. After completion of the process, our host, Earth, sparked up the bowl. Passing it along in a slow and focused manner for 2 rounds, we entered into a soft DPT wind space. Breathing together, seeing together, a perfect how do you do. Several of the elements, including myself, went for a second dip and loaded another bowl of DPT. I must say I really enjoyed the smoked route of DPT. It has a smooth quality all on its own. We estimated the individual amounts consumed to be around 20 to 30 milligrams each round. After consuming the appropriate salad, we sized up for the main course. DPT seemed to be the one calling, so we all discussed our levels for intramuscular injection. Having some previous experience with DPT, Fire decided that he enjoyed the lower end of this material more. Rack him up with a 40. Metal has been wanting to push his limits with it, so he opted for 120 milligrams. Earth took the cautious approach of 40 milligrams, since this was his first go with intramuscular, and Wood opted for the same. After much consideration, I decided to push the known and go for a simultaneous DPT plus ketamine combination. Metal had successfully tried adding K at the 2-hour point during a previous DPT experiment, and all indicators pointed to the moon. I decided to go with 50 milligrams DPT and 60 milligrams of K, a nice medium level of both materials individually for me. With the music and pillows in place, we launched the rocket from the pad. Metal kindly provided the needlework, and I picked up a few pointers in the process. The onset was very fast, and both materials seemed to simultaneously thrust me into the spark of creation. There I am. There I. An hour of absolute. After the CD ended, I was able to get up and bring on the next phase of the journey. Time for the high power get down, with the get down monk chanting, David Parsons' Darjeeling is that ticket. With a low-frequency drone spinning the threads of reality, I did the spacewalk back to my throne. The next hour of the trip was spent witnessing the grand dimensions of being complete, with projectile gods flowing simultaneously outward and inward, while my mind was floating down a river of dualistic expression. The ketamine lubricant is absolutely essential to running the DPT engine at full throttle. The lubricant allowed the DPT revival vibration to happen at a level far beyond my body, rather than being limited and forced through the low voltage wires of the human nervous system. This is without a doubt a revolutionary combination. Being thoroughly satisfied with my trip, I decided to bring it on down to the ground and watch the others launch into a second round. Later in the evening, I took a dose of GHB, which seemed to have very little effect after 1 hour. I took another full dose way too soon and accidentally knocked myself out. Metal kindly tucked me into bed just before I passed out. At this point, I shall revert to brief synopsis of the other elements for the remainder of the evening. Metal opted for a second round in order to try the DPT/K combination, and he was likewise impressed. A witness to the cauldron of creation. Earth also opted to try the combo and open up some amazing and intense spaces. Fire was satisfied for the night and decided to cool his heels. Wood turned into a 5-alarm fire with his all-consuming, self-negating tendency to sabotage his energetic. Repeated dosages of DPT and K were administered until he hit a vocal feedback loop, repeating the words nirvana, bliss, and enlightenment for the next 2 hours. At the point of no return, Metal put the drugs away. Wood doesn't recall much at all from the evening, and certainly paid a heavy price for his lack of focus in calibrating the burn. He pretty much took himself out of the game for the rest of the weekend with his unconscious indulgence. The lessons learned. Perhaps this time he created it in such a way so obvious and intense that he can't ignore it. With awareness, he can then actualize a shift in the limiting patterns. I wouldn't have wanted it any other way for him, even though his presence was missed in the later stages of the weekend. In some respects, his trip really began when the meeting had ended, with he and I having a rather deep psychological discussion at the airport, opening things up for him in very grand ways. All in all, quite the kick-off for the Circle of Five. I find my way to the full Monty on the first half of the meeting, and now the second half of the event will be focused on bringing it on back to the physical world with a little help from Mescalito and his friends, but for now we rest. The next day's adventure will be brought to you in part 2 of this transmission. Till then, rest well, my fair young god.